Good afternoon, friends. In the first session on vocabulary, we have seen various ways in which vocab building can happen. In this session, we will be emphasizing more on etymology, or which is also called as the root prefix suffix method by a lot of people. Okay. Now, before we go into etymology, let me probably give you some background on how etymology as a concept works. A disclaimer before we go ahead. Etymology is to be used for vocab based questions only. It will enable you to know the meanings of the words only. It does not help you how to use a word. So what does etymology focus on? An unknown word is given to you. You should be in a position to identify the meaning of the words. So which question types can etymology help me? It can help me in synonyms, antonyms, analogies and odd man out. For these question types, 4 question types, we would basically be focusing on etymology as a concept. Okay. Now, to give you a brief understanding of etymology, let me just give you some background on certain things that I have learned while teaching students, certain things that help in getting people interested in language. Last few years of teaching, a lot of people come up saying, verbal is very boring, vocabulary is very boring, what are you actually teaching me? I prefer a maths class to a verbal class. And when I probe and ask them, why is that you prefer maths over verbal? General answers I get is maths is tangible. There is logic in maths, there is no logic in English, there is no logic in language. My only question to them at that point of time is, have you ever tried to question the logic in language? Look at it this way, is language an invention or a discovery? What is the difference between the two? Discovery, already there, I simply find it out. Invention, I create it. So what is language? Invention, discovery, invention, clearly, right? Now, do inventions have logic? Absolutely. So if language is an invention and inventions have logic, language should have logic. Whoever invented language probably had some reason behind everything. The only point is you and I have never questioned it. And the reason why we find English as a funny language. Let me give you one more analogy. If I ask you, is there a difference between maths and algebra? All those people who love maths, especially engineering students, is there a difference between maths and algebra? Look at these words closely. Algebra. If you probably look at other words like alcohol, it's alcohol. Alchemy, it's alchemy. There's Al-Qaeda, there's algebra, which probably means al is something to do with Arabic. Algebra was invented by the Arabs. Mathematics was invented by the Greeks, you could say, right? That's a basic difference. Now my next question to you is maths a science or a subject? What do you think? For that you need to know what does science mean. Science comes from the root sci, and sci means to know. So science essentially enables you to know things. Does maths enable you to know anything? Secondly, if maths was a science, there should have been a Nobel Prize for maths. There isn't. So what is the function of maths? If you carefully notice, maths on its own has no value. It has a value as a support system to the other sciences. Let's take, for example, if I put up this equation, E is equal to mc square. For people who know this, immediately the answers come in is the Einstein's theory of relativity. How do you know? I haven't even mentioned it. But has the equation enabled to drive that point home? Absolutely. Look at next equation. F is equal to ma. People who probably have done Newton's law of motions in school would probably recall, oh, this is the second law of motion. I haven't mentioned. But the equation on its own helps you understand that, hey boss, this is the Newton's law of motion. So now carefully look at it. Isn't this equation communicating something? Isn't maths actually helping you communicate? What I can put in words, I can put in equations. So this equation is actually helping you communicate. Language helps you communicate. So isn't maths a language then? So if maths is a language and maths has logic, language has logic, English should have logic. And this logic behind a language is studied by people called the etymologists. And what do etymologists believe? They believe that if words enter a language, there has to be some reason why they are there in the language. Now, what does etymology believe? It believes or functions on a basic premise: when words have common spelling parts, they have common meanings. So if you can identify words with common spelling parts, you will get the meanings also. For example, look at all the words with ology have a common study of. be it biology, sociology, anthropology, zoology. All the words with phobia have something to do with fear. All the words with aqua will have something to do with water. So words having common spelling parts have always common meanings. Let's take some very simple examples here. Look at these three words. You have science, you have omniscient, you have conscious. If you look at science, omniscient, conscious, what is a common spelling part? Common spelling part is psi. What does science help you do? Know. Who is a conscious person? Who knows himself. Who is an omniscient person? One who knows everything. So common spelling part, psi. Common meaning, know. So what does psi mean? Psi means to know. So psi becomes a root. What is a root? A root is a common spelling part which will have common meanings in all the words that it exists. So now on the basis of that, if I ask you, guess the meaning of the word prescient. You know pre means before. Psi means to know. What is prescient? To know beforehand. Does it become easier for you to guess the meaning of the word? Absolutely. Would it become easier for you to eliminate the options? Absolutely. Let's take a few more examples. A carnivore, a herbivore, an omnivore. Common spelling part, vor. What is the root? Vor. Let's look at the common meaning also. Who is a carnivore? One who eats flesh. Who is an herbivore? One who eats grass. Who is an omnivore? One who eats both. So what does vor mean? Vor means eat. So now if I ask you, guess the meaning of the word voracious. What does voracious mean? A person who eats a lot. Even if you don't know the meaning of the word, would you probably connect it? Vor, eat, voracious. Probably this word has something to do with eat. From the options, will you be able to mark the answers at least? Probably yes. Right? I could also use voracious as he is a voracious reader, meaning a person who reads a lot, or in literal sense, a person who eats books is how vor comes in. Now, let's pick up from carnivore. Who is a carnivore? A person who eats flesh. Okay. Now, look at other words with kan. What are the words if I ask you? Can you think of possible words with kan? What are the words that will come to your mind? Maybe carnival, maybe reincarnation. What's the meaning of reincarnation? Born in flesh again. Who is a carnivore? A person who eats flesh. Carnival also probably will have something to do with flesh. So what does kan mean? Kan means flesh. So now if I ask you, guess the meaning of the word carnal. Al means related to. Kan means flesh. Carnal would mean related to flesh. So we generally say do not indulge in carnal pleasures, meaning pleasures related to the sense. Right? So kan means flesh. Now just out of curiosity, can you connect carnival to flesh? Can carnival have something to do with flesh? Let's say, what does carnival mean? A festival. We have the Dubai shopping carnival. We have the Goa carnival. So how does a festival have anything to do with flesh? For that, probably you'll have to go back to Christianity. A lot of words in English language have something to do with the way the Catholics behaved, they did, the religious rites and rituals of Catholics. Okay. Now, to help you understand that, let's look at among the Hindus, there is a holy month called Shravan. And Shravan is a time when the Hindus abstain from non-veg eating, rather they are supposed to. Okay, but in lot of cultures, before Shravan starts, people celebrate Gatari. I can imagine some people smiling now. Okay, what is Gatari? Gatari is a time when they eat a lot of non-veg. Why? Because now they know for 1 month they cannot eat non-veg. Similarly, among the Catholics, there's a period called Lent. Lent is supposed to be the holy month for the Catholics, and this is a month where they mourn the death of Jesus. It's also the mourning period for Catholics. Okay, and during these 40 days of Lent, the Catholics are supposed to abstain from every kind of luxury. And one of the luxury for Catholics is to stop eating non-veg. So they do not eat non-veg for 40 days. Before Lent begins, they celebrate something called Carnival. And this Carnival is actually bidding farewell to flesh eating. So the val in Carnival, the val refers to goodbye. So Carnival actually is bidding farewell to flesh eating. That's how the word Carnival comes in. Let's look at one more example. You have synonyms, you have antonyms, okay, and you have acronyms. Common spelling part is NIM. Now, what is an acronym? To understand acronym, let's take 2 examples. A lot of people would have probably guessed an acronym has something to do with abbreviation. Okay, now let's take two examples. You have HIV, you have AIDS. Okay, what's the full form of HIV? It's human immunovirus. Full form of AIDS, it's acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. Okay, now if you notice, both these words have been created by picking up the first letter of 3 different words or 4 different words. HIV, it's human immunovirus, so it's HIV. Acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, so it is AIDS. That's how it has been picked up basically. Okay, now look at the first one. How would you pronounce this word? It's HIV. It's a letter wise pronunciation. How would you pronounce this word? It's a word wise pronunciation. So AIDS is a word wise pronunciation, HIV is a letter wise pronunciation. So HIV becomes an abbreviation, but AIDS is an acronym. So when the pronunciation is letter wise, it's an abbreviation. Pronunciation is word wise, it basically becomes an acronym. Okay, so look at synonym, antonym, acronym. Common spelling part, nim. So what is the root? Nim. So there is a common spelling part there, there has to be a common meaning also. So what does synonym mean? Similar meaning word. Antonym, opposite meaning words. Acronyms, words formed from tips of words. So what does nim mean? Nim means word. So now if I ask you, guess the meaning of the word toponym. For that you will first need to know what topo means. So can you think of words with topo? You can have topology, you can have topography, you can have utopia, etc. What is topology? A study of the geographical features of a place. Utopia, ideal place. Dystopia, bad place. So what is topo? Place. Nim, word. What are toponyms? Words derived from names of places are known as toponyms. We've already taken one example of toponym like marathon in our previous classes or a previous session. So these are examples of toponyms essentially.